Good defense. Lead pass. Rose.
Stop it! Stop it! Do not do him like that! What are you doing, Dragons? Did you not get the memo?
But he's well away from it. Rose crosses over the fadeaway.
Let me step back and kiss myself! Stop it! I want to go higher! That's what I'm talking about right there! That's your point guard, Neil Fox!
I vividly remember watching the NBA draft lottery back in 2008. It was in my apartment back in college with my roommates, watching it passively because while I was intrigued to see where the selections would land, I knew that it was extremely unlikely for the Bulls to be getting lucky, not even just to move into the top 3, but to land the #1 pick to get the hometown kid that we had all been following throughout high school in Derrick Rose. The Chicago Bulls, who had a disappointing season in 07-08, had just a 1.7% chance at landing the #1 pick, and lo and behold, the basketball gods came through and against all odds gave us the #1 pick, and not just any #1 pick, but a pick that would give them the chance to draft a franchise-altering player and provide storylines galore, with Rose being from the city of Chicago. I was over the moon after watching a struggling Bulls team post the dynasty era as a kid, knowing this type of player was going to put the Bulls back on the map, back to relevancy, and dare I say it, even bring the city of Chicago a championship parade once again. But just as the basketball gods blessed us with the gift of Derrick Rose, they also took it away way too early and left us with one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA basketball history. What could have been had Rose never gotten injured and remained healthy in his prime. But we're not here to talk about that and dwell on the unpleasant memories of Rose's prime being cut short. We're here to honor, pay tribute, and focus on the memories that Derrick Rose brought us as we learn of his retirement from the game of basketball after 15 seasons in the NBA. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, we kind of all knew this was coming after the Grizzlies waived Derrick Rose just a few days ago. Rose had been dropping hints on social media, even had, like a paid marketing campaign to kind of give us a preview of what to expect with him looking at a chessboard, looking up at the camera, implying his next move. So clearly, this was in the works, given he had enough time to be working with the team to film all of this. But even despite the fact that we knew that it was coming, it still hits differently when that announcement is made official. And it hit differently because of what Derrick Rose meant for the city of Chicago, not even just in his time with the Bulls, where he spent 7 seasons with the organization, but being one of the top talents in the nation in high school and being from Chicago. And I know all of you who tune into the channel are all from various parts of the world, have been following the Bulls at different stages in your life, but as someone who has followed this team since the dynasty days that got me into the game of basketball in the first place, the Derrick Rose era, and I'll call that era the pre-injury era because post-injury he was just never really the same player and the team was never really the same after that, and there was a lot of drama that came with it when he did eventually come back. But the pre-injury Derrick Rose era are some of the fondest memories for myself in watching basketball. And I think a lot of it was because I was a little too young during the dynasty days to really appreciate the game of basketball and the greatness of Michael Jordan and the Bulls being so dominant. But by the time that Rose had come onto the scene, I had been following the game more, had a better understanding of the business side of the league, and because there were so many down years, really, really bad years for Bulls basketball, to see the Bulls come back up again and be one of the best teams in the league, a championship contender again, it made that era all the more meaningful. People forget that the Bulls weren't supposed to be that good. The season that Rose won the MVP, they had just come off a year where they had barely made the playoffs in 2010, were a 500 team. They fired Vinny Del Negro, hired Tom Thibodeau, they signed Carlos Boozer as a free agent and missed out on the summer 2010 free agency bonanza of guys like LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. They were a young team whose best player was a 22-year-old in just his 3rd season in the league. No one thought they were going to finish with the best record in the NBA and win 62 games. No one. Most preseason rankings had the Bulls finishing 5th or 6th in the East that year. That's what made that season so magical, because the Bulls went from being this fun highlight reel team that was fun to watch but wasn't at the level where they could win games consistently, to then being a fun, high energy, lockdown defensive team, legitimate title contending team in just a matter of 1 season. And seeing the ascendance of Rose, where he was leading this young team to the best record in the NBA and doing so in dominant fashion, putting up 25 points per game, near 8 assists, was an elite finisher at the rim with his explosiveness to the basket. You could not stop Rose. When he was going full steam ahead to the hoop, he was either going to throw it down with an aggressive dunk or do an insane reverse layup, or some weird shot falling backwards off of the bucket but still somehow would end up making it. Every night I was in awe by some of the things Rose was doing. We had quite literally never seen an athlete like this before. I know some will say, well, what about Westbrook? Rose was doing this well before Russell Westbrook started taking off and replicating some of what we saw from Rose, and obviously at a much younger age. We had never seen a player do the things Rose was doing at such a young age, where he was the MVP of the league at 22, the youngest MVP in league history. That, in and of itself, is mind-boggling. We will never see a player win the MVP that young ever again. The NBA had to create a new salary rule where players who are selected to an All-NBA team can receive a rookie max extension beyond what they would have normally been eligible for. Players like Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, to name a few, who received effectively what are rookie supermax extensions, now known as the Rose Rule. Derrick Rose's impact on the league in just that short period of time at the beginning of his career was palpable, with the way players talked about him, how they still talk about him as an unstoppable force to be reckoned with, a player that many believed would become the best player in the NBA in a few years' time. And while Rose had his share of poor PR moments, sometimes bad optics, between his unwillingness to return to the court after he was cleared to play from his first injury, fans often questioning his desire to play the game post-injury, like Rose got a lot of bad press towards the end of his tenure with the Bulls, and a lot of it wasn't fair. It didn't help that his play also declined quite a bit, and I think that was more of just frustration from the fans knowing that he was never going to be the same player again and realizing what could have been had Rose remained healthy. But regardless of how things ended for Rose with his time in Chicago, there is no denying the monumental impact he had on the city, even for just a short period of time. He made basketball exciting again for the Bulls. He was the biggest star and the greatest player the team had seen since Michael Jordan. And even though MJ will always be the most recognizable face in Bulls franchise history, Derrick Rose and what he meant to the franchise hits a little different, being from the city that we all love. For Rose, he was like family to the community of Chicago, and his greatness brought everyone together to enjoy and love Bulls basketball again. While Rose and Bulls fans were hit with some of the worst luck in preventing us from seeing Rose reach his true potential, preventing the Bulls from winning another championship, maybe even multiple championships, the pain, the agony of that being taken away from us, it still won't take away the great memories that we do have of Derrick Rose. The iconic dunks, the game winners, the insane highlights, those will never be taken away from us. Derrick Rose's legacy in the city of Chicago will always live on, whether he becomes a Hall of Famer or the Bulls retire his number or not. He will always be Chicago. I wish him the best of luck on his next chapter and look forward to seeing what's next for him. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.